My name is Ronald Melvin.
My name is Rother Boswell.
My name is John Tipton.
My name is Robin Cole.
My name is Charles R. Merkel.
And I'm Nate McLaughlin.
I'm Blanche Valentine, and this is Palm Coast View.
Well, you know that in Toastmasters, they always talk about speaking proper English. And my contention has always been, why should I speak English like that when I brought up on a dialect? You know, there are certain parts, because they say I don't put S's on my words and a lot of other things. Well, if I was not taught that as part of the dialect of the Southerners where I came from, then why should I change mine to my language to suit yours?
Okay, I agree. That's another question. If Robin can, I guess, attest to this. If you're on a sailboat, there's a different language. If you spoke the way we do right now, not only would there be chaos, but somebody could get hurt, if not killed, on a sailboat. And so we have to learn a language. When you're on that vessel, there's a language we speak. So my question is, in this country, is there a language we need to speak so that we all know exactly what we're speaking of? And that's where I don't have a problem with learning English or American, whatever it is. But I think we need some standard way of communicating.
Well, how would we have a standard way of communicating when one word can have several different meanings?
But that's my point. When you get on that vessel, that word has a meaning. That doesn't mean that once you get off the boat, you can't speak whatever language you want. I am just saying there are times when, let's put it this way, in the military, they use terms that mean one thing. And if you say that to any military person, they know exactly what you're talking about. And so therefore, I'm saying, is that another hindrance of us being able to communicate about our government? Are we saying one thing, meaning something different to many of us? I got y'all thinking now.
Can you give us an example?
Well,
Well, on a boat, you have port, you have port and starboard. If you are not using the language, depends on which way you're facing on the boat, which is going to be your right and your left. So if one is facing to the bow and one is facing to the stern, and somebody says, go to your right, they're going to go in different directions. But if you say everybody on port side, everybody knows exactly where to go. There's no guess.
So it does depend on context then. So on a boat, ho could be land ho, there's land.
Yeah.
Say ho to a farmer, it's one meaning. Say to a rapper, it's a whole nother meaning. So it's
and
you say ho from my neighborhood. It's none of the above. I'll leave it at that out of respect for Robin.
Okay.
They claim they got rid of those neighborhoods in Boston too, but I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, well, Mel, to your point though, I think at some point, it gets so nuanced to where people start to throw their hands up. And again, we're 5 people speaking to an issue that 300 million plus their descendants are going to have to deal with. So, it comes, and then one of the things we had was the institution of government, which was supported by the institution of politics that enabled us to figure these things out. And what I'm experiencing from my angle is that we're dealing with, I won't say the collapse, because that's a little bit too strong for me, but I'll say we're dealing with challenges to those institutions, and that's what what I'm hoping we're experiencing is pains of growth. That's what I'm hoping we're experiencing. What I'm fearing we're experiencing is America no longer being America as it was once conceived.
Work. And I truly believe that the young people coming up today are going to live in a different America than what we're living in now.
Well, they have to. We're living in a different one than our parents and our great grandparents
point.
grew up in.
Yeah, because
Well,
I
it has
remember
to
my
change.
parents telling me the music that I was listening to was horrible. They were big band folks.
Right.
You want to hear Elvis and the Temptations. Well, honestly, they caught on to the Temps by the time Motown came out.
Well, there's cultural changes and fundamental changes, and
Yes. But
the
look at
fundamentals are being challenged.
Look at the kids now and the way they communicate on their telephones. The way we would write in the past would not be acceptable the way they communicate with each other. They drop punctuation marks, they use different abbreviations, and in fact, they use a little icon to mean what they don't say something, they use an icon.
Right.
Emoji. Say what they want to say.
Well, my frustration also to that end is a bit of a digression, but well, I'll just say this: that my frustration is grammar. I grew up very aware of the importance of grammar in terms of how to properly express yourself. I had some really good teachers, and I'm seeing it now, even in our media, folks that should know better, that are journalist majors and writers like Robin. And they're just throwing grammar out the window. Now, hip hop genre had a lot to do with that because it became cool to talk a certain way that was, but I will not put cool in front of right fundamentals in terms of grammar, because that's where we were able to communicate most effectively in my mind, when we all agreed to sentence structure and we were taught the same way by the same school system on how to do that. And now we've gotten to this independent way of expressing yourself, which on one hand, again, has a gift aspect and a curse aspect. The gift aspect, of course, everybody feels like they're free to express themselves individually, and that gives you a certain level of freedom, what have you. But the curse aspect is that we've dumbed down. Now, I don't know that young folks, like my parents used to tell me, we practice at home so that when we get out in the street, we know how to conduct ourselves. I don't think that, I think due to the lack of this practice at home, or the way that things are being practiced at home, we've just gotten so dumbed down. We just accept being dumb and just say, well, I speak this way, so I'm just going to, everybody should just accept how I speak, even though it's improper relative to the system that that's been established.
Right.
That's frustrating.
And so a lot of people are blaming, because they're blaming, both parents are out having to work, so there's nobody home to spend time with the kids. They're also blaming social media and Twitter, especially, where Twitter originally was only 120 characters, and you had a lot to say. You had to get it out in 120 characters. So you were skipping letters just to put words out there. And it's totally changed. And the average reading today is lower than 5th grade.
It's
Yeah.
lower than 5th grade now?
Just a little under 5th grade.
Wow.
So that's what we're writing for.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I remember like 20 years, it has been since like the mid 90s, late 90s to late 90s, where I checked, the average newspaper, which nobody reads anymore, but the average newspaper at that time was written at a 5th grade level. Like, they consciously targeted that level as a standard for writing due to lack of reading comprehension and
Right, but
capability.
most
So it
people
stands
they don't even check, they don't check the readability or anything on any of that stuff today.
Like, I can be a good editor today because some of the mistakes are just so obvious. I can write out. I can be a good editor, and the standards are so low. But again, the way I was raised, the way that I was brought up, we taught in the system, and then in that system, you could use colloquialisms, you can use slang, but you first had to learn the basics. You had to learn how to do proper sentence structure, proper spelling. And then you could play around with it. Now, if I told somebody, how do you spell laugh out loud? Kids are going to say LOL.
Right. But you also,
And can't
you
write
also
cursive.
have these,
Can't write cursive writing.
yep. But you also have all these softwares now that correct your, do the spell check and everything else. But if you spell like the word there, THERE, THEIR, THY''RE, spell check's going to accept any one of those. It may not be the right one, but it's going to accept it. And that's a big issue as well. They all depend on Grammarly now, especially, and spell check. And even when you're sending text messages, the damn phone is constantly changing to what they think you're supposed to be saying. And it's always, I'm forever getting pissed off because I send something out and I send it the way I want it to read. And then I look and see, oh no, it's changed it before it got sent.
Mhm.